You're seating at a red light in a massive pickup that costs more than some people make in a year. And for a second, it feels incredible. The seat is plush, the hood is towering over traffic, and you've got that little, yeah, I made it, rush. But then reality taps you on the shoulder. You don't haul anything. You don't tow anything. You're not on a job site. You're not on a ranch. And the bed of that truck has basically become an expensive storage bin for one bag of mulch, a kid's bike, and some warehouse water bottles. So the question is, why are you paying luxury car money for a vehicle built like it should be working for a living? I'm Vanessa, and today we're talking about the pavement princess trap. And, oh, it gets expensive fast. Because this isn't just about a big truck. This is about a whole financial setup that quietly drains your cash, limits your options, and makes you feel tough while your bank account is getting absolutely wrecked. Let's start with the sticker shock, because this is where people love to pretend the math doesn't matter. The average new pickup in America is now around $62,000. Average. Not the fully loaded, leather-drenched, chrome-everywhere version. Just the average. And if you want the fancy trim that makes you feel like you should be checking fence lines at sunset, you're easily in the $75,000 to $95,000 range. That's not a truck anymore. That's a mortgage with a bed. And the median household income in the US is about $84,000. So yes, a lot of people are financing a vehicle that costs almost an entire year of their family's earnings. Wild. Now let's talk monthly payment, because that's how the trap gets you. The dealer does the little magic trick, stretches it to 84 months, and suddenly the payment looks manageable at $1,247. 7 years. That's not a car loan anymore. That's a long-term relationship with bad decision-making. And the payment is only the beginning. That's the part people keep forgetting on purpose. Fuel first. If your truck gets around 15 miles per gallon in mixed driving, and you're driving 15,000 miles a year, you're looking at roughly $3,500 a year in gas, at about $3.50 a gallon. Compare that to a sedan doing 35 miles per gallon, and you'd spend around $1,500. That's a $2,000 yearly gap, about $167 a month, just so you can sit higher than traffic. Insurance is next. Sure, people love to say trucks are cheaper to insure, and sometimes liability can be. But you're not insuring some dusty workhorse. They're insuring a $90,000 rolling status symbol. If something happens to that thing, the bank is staring at a giant loss, and your collision and comprehensive coverage reflects that. Realistically, you're paying about $60 to $80 more each month than you would on a normal sedan. Then there are the tires. Those giant all-terrain monsters that somehow show up on trucks that never leave asphalt. A full set can run $1,500 to $2,000, and you'll be replacing them every 40,000 to 50,000 miles. On a regular sedan, you might spend around $600. That's another $50 to $75 a month if you actually spread the cost out like an adult. Maintenance? Bigger vehicle? Bigger bills. More oil. Larger brakes, bigger parts, more expensive everything. Add another $100 a month compared to an ordinary car. And don't forget registration and taxes. In a lot of states, the value of the vehicle affects what you pay every year. On a $90,000 truck, it's not hard to end up around $800 to $1,200 annually. Call it $80 a month. So now let's stack it up. $1,247 for the payment, $167 for extra gas, $60 for higher insurance, $75 for tire wear, $100 for maintenance, $80 for registration. That puts your real monthly truck cost at about $1,729. And we still haven't touched interest. If you finance that thing at 7.2% for 84 months, you're not just paying for the truck. You're paying about $14,748 in interest alone. That's money gone forever. Not into equity, not into investments, not into your future, straight to the bank for the privilege of borrowing money to buy something that loses value while you sleep. Now let's compare it to the boring universe. The one where you buy a 3-year-old Toyota Camry for around $28,000. Your payment might be about $450 a month. Insurance around $180. Fuel around $125. Maintenance stays reasonable. Your total monthly transportation cost lands near $850. So the difference between the truck and the sedan is about $879 every month. Over 7 years, that's $73,836. And if you invest that difference instead of feeding it into the truck machine, at an 8% return, you could end up with around $95,000. Let that sit for a second. That's not just less expensive. That's a completely different life. That's a down payment. That's a real emergency fund. That's travel. That's freedom. That's the difference between being pinned down by a payment and actually having choices. And the psychological part is where this gets extra nasty, because the trek doesn't even stay exciting. There's a name for that: hedonic adaptation. Basically, humans get used to stuff fast. The first week, you're obsessed. The leather feels amazing, the cabin feels commanding, and you're basically auditioning for a truck commercial in your own head. By week 12, it's just your vehicle. The novelty is gone, but the payment is still there. The insurance bill still shows up. The gas pump still wants blood. So now you've traded long-term stress for a short burst of ego. Cute. And here's the part people really don't want to hear. That payment doesn't just hurt your wallet, it warps your whole financial life. You want to buy a house? Lenders look at your debt-to-income ratio. They want your monthly debts under a certain chunk of your income. That truck payment alone can eat up about 26% of an $85,000 salary before you even mention a mortgage. So yes, congratulations, you may have just talked yourself out of a $350,000 house so you could look rugged in the grocery store parking lot. You want to take the trip? Your friends are splitting a ski weekend or a beach Airbnb, and you're sitting there checking your account after making the truck payment. Suddenly, you're super busy. Funny how that works. You want an emergency fund? Financial people tell you to have 6 months of expenses saved. For a lot of people, that's around $18,000. But when you're juggling the truck payment, insurance, rent, student loans, and groceries, maybe you can save $200 a month if you're lucky. At that pace, it takes years. And in the meantime, one blown transmission or one medical bill can send you into a credit card spiral. And once credit cards enter the chat, it gets ugly. One little charge here, I'll pay it off next month there, and suddenly you're carrying a $6,000 balance at 23% interest. Now you're paying about $115 a month just in interest. That's not spending, that's financial evaporation. If you live with a partner, the truck becomes a third person in the relationship, and nobody invited it. Every money conversation gets tense. Savings goals get delayed. Home repairs get postponed. And if your partner mentions getting rid of the truck, suddenly you're defensive, because now it's not a vehicle, it's your identity. And that's another trap. The truck can make you risk-averse in your career. You don't want to leave the job you hate because you need the paycheck. You don't want to negotiate too hard because what if they fire you? You don't want to take a leap, start a business, change paths, or even breathe too deeply near uncertainty, because the truck payment is sitting there like a handcuff. That's the really twisted part. A status symbol can turn into a cage. And for what? So you can feel powerful for a few months before the feeling evaporates? There's also this myth that trucks are practical because they hold their value. Okay, sure, relatively speaking, they may depreciate a little slower than some sedans. But math is math. If a $90,000 truck loses 40% over 5 years, that's a $36,000 drop. If a $28,000 sedan loses 55%, that's about $15,400. You still lost way more money on the truck. Percentages are cute. Dollar amounts are what actually leave your account. And then there's the favorite excuse. But I might need it. Maybe. You might also need a motorcycle, if you suddenly become obsessed with lane splitting. You might need a minivan if you have 4 kids. You might need a sports car if you decide to go racing. We don't buy vehicles based on imaginary lives that might happen someday. We buy based on what we actually do most of the time. And most of the time, you're commuting on pavement, alone, in traffic, in a truck built for work that you are not doing. So be honest. Are you buying the truck because you need it or because you want to feel a certain way? Because if it's the second one, I'm not judging you. I'm just saying don't pretend it's a smart financial move. Own the vibe purchase. Don't dress it up like a necessity. That's what the auto industry is banking on, by the way. They've spent a fortune convincing men that a truck is a shortcut to competence, masculinity, and respect. It's brilliant marketing. It's also nonsense. Your grandpa probably drove something practical and still handled life just fine. The vehicle does not make the man. The balance sheet kind of does, though. And let's kill the I can afford the payment argument while we're here. Because dealerships love that one. They'll show you the monthly number and make it feel manageable. We can get you to $1,247. Sure. And then what? Did they mention gas? Insurance? Tires? Registration? Interest? Did they mention that you just tied up a huge chunk of your income for 7 years? Of course not. They want you focused on the monthly, not the total damage. So what do you do if you're already in this mess? If you already own the truck and it's crushing you, sell it. Yes, even if you're upside down. Yes, even if it bruises your ego. Pride is expensive, and it doesn't compound. Take the hit now instead of bleeding for 5 more years. And if you don't own it yet, honestly, I'm saving you a ridiculous amount of stress here. Don't buy it. Just don't. Go sit in a boring, reliable sedan, a Camry, an Accord, a Mazda 3. If you want something that doesn't feel totally asleep at the wheel, buy it used if you can. Finance it for 36 months max if you have to. Keep the payment low, keep your options open. Because when your transportation costs drop from $1,700 plus a month to something sane, everything else gets easier. You can invest. You can travel. You can build an emergency fund. You can breathe. You can say yes to life instead of saying, "Sorry, I can't. My truck payment says no." And when some guy pulls up in his brand new oversized truck and jokes about your little car, smile, because you know something he doesn't. You know he's paying more every month than a lot of people pay in rent. You know he's one surprise repair away from panic. You know that 5 years from now, you'll have money, flexibility, and peace, while he'll still be feeding a depreciating machine. That's the secret dealerships don't want you to catch. Vehicles are tools. That's it. You don't buy the $90,000 hammer to hang a picture. You buy the tool that fits the job. And for most people, a huge pickup is just financial theater with heated seats. So the next time you're staring at all the trim packages and the leather and the 12 cup holders and the premium off-road package you'll never use, remember this. They're not selling you transportation. They're selling you a very expensive bill of expenses with nice stitching. And if you want the truth, real strength is not pretending a financial trap is a lifestyle. Real strength is looking at the numbers, being honest about what you actually need, and choosing the path that gives you more freedom instead of less. Buy the boring car. Keep your money. Build your life.